Just looking at some of the stats, a recent study revealed that 55% of schoolboy rugby players use a supplement, and this is starting from the age of 10. Also, schools are incentivized for selling and using these supplements and are often awarded a sort of point system. The competitions are held for having promotional events for these supplement brands. I mean, that all sounds pretty shameless.
It really is, but I think we need to separate the two issues. Firstly, in terms of the marketing campaign, yes, that is the specific campaign that we responded to when we became aware of it. And we do feel quite strongly that that needs to be revisited, and that really it is promoting the wrong type of behavior. And it is promoting a dependency. So we do, as the South African Sports Medicine Association, feel quite strongly, and we have written a position statement that has been endorsed by SAID, the South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport. In terms of the statistic that you relate to us now, about 55% of school attending athletes testing positive, I think it's important to contextualize it. Yes, that was the finding in a particular study, absolutely, and we quoted in our position statement. But you must be mindful that when it comes to rugby specifically, they are the most tested code in South Africa. Now, there's two different kinds of testings that happen by SAIDs. There is mass testing, where you go to a competition and you test anyone and everyone. And then there's targeted testing, where really your testing would be aimed at those people that you suspect may be using supplements. So if you look at the general statistics that SAIDs has released in terms of their testing, what we know that in the last financial year, so 2015, 2016, they did about 2,914 tests, urine tests in total. 718 of those were done in rugby. So that's about 25% of all the tests they did in South Africa were done on rugby players. And then of those 718, there were 18 positive tests. And then of those 18, 3 of them were schoolboys. Now, in my opinion, that's 3 too many, but it's just important for me to contextualize this. It is a problem. And we need to treat it as a problem, but just contextualize it so that we don't tell the public and the message doesn't go out that half of people playing rugby or schoolboys playing rugby are using supplements or are doping. I think it's important to just clarify that.
Part of this culture then among school kids of taking supplements for improved performance, I mean, is there any proof that these supplements are enhancing performance, and what is your recommendation then for healthier alternatives?
Well, what we do know, Nick, is that there's a number of reasons that they take these supplements. So professional athletes definitely take them to improve performance. But by and large, the suspicion is that if we tested recreational athletes, in other words, those schoolboys that go to gym and just do sport for the fun of it, they would test positive at a higher rate than professionals. And in many studies that have been done in South Africa and in the US, where you ask athletes or you ask children attending schools to just admit to using supplements, we know that this population actually does report using a higher number of supplements than athletes themselves. And they use it because of body imagery, because they perceive lean and muscular and toned to be better. So I think in addressing the problem, to answer the second part of your question, we need to address the why, so why they use them. And then certainly we need to give them alternatives. In terms of addressing the why, I think that's very multi-layered. And again, marketing campaigns that promote this idea of lean, thin, muscular toned being the image that we should all strive for. Again, they need to be questioned in the way that we push this idea at this particular age group. But maybe the things that we've got more control over rather is, what the alternatives are. And we know very well that a whole diet, is the way to go, firstly. Secondly, that obviously a defined and well-calculated training program in combination with a good diet and targeted recovery strategies certainly play a significant role in performance, and perhaps more of a demonstrable role in performance than just using a singular supplement. So I think education really is the cornerstone. And then, of course, one needs to say, as a clinician, as a healthcare practitioner, I'm very aware that there would be specific clinical indications to use supplements. So something like iron or a multivitamin is also classified as a supplement. And surely if we demonstrated that an athlete really does have an iron deficiency or any other deficiency, then there would be a reason, in combination with nutritional strategies to use supplements.
Final question, Pat. So last week we spoke to the South African Institute of Drug-Free Sport. The issue of doping has been in the headlines quite a bit of late. I mean, if we look at the Rio Olympics and Team Russia, but just back home, there have been a number of rugby players that have tested positive for banned substances at Currie Cup level, but it's also been an issue in the Craven Week. Now, are you guys convinced that this problem starts with the sort of junior structures and the way that supplements are marketed? Is this where the problem begins?
Absolutely. And really the question that we ask and the theory that we're putting forth is that introducing supplements as a behavior, an acceptable behavior at a high school level does create dependency on supplements and makes it easier then for an athlete to start using banned substances later on in life. So we certainly feel quite strongly as the South African Sports Medicine Association that education needs to happen at multiple levels, and definitely there needs to be a strong campaign that happens at high school level that equips athletes, recreational and professional athletes, with skills and knowledge about how to achieve their targets using alternative strategies. And when they do feel they need to use supplements, who to consult in order to be able to be properly guided down that route.